Our drawing today. Just trying to get the stream up on my laptop so that I can monitor the chat and the YouTube is not playing ball. Anyways, we're working on Miles Marav's Pursuit of Happiness today. Um, oh, book that will eventually be short stories, but I'm working on all the illustrations first before I've written the short stories. So it's always a bit of a what to do. And it's also working alphabetically. What today's is the S spread. And I came up with scuba. So we're going to start with Miles, and then we've got a shark and kind of a shipwreck, but it's a small one, and some other sort of stuff. And hello, Rex Peters. How's it going? Yeah, let's get set up. It's always funny in the last few minutes before I go live, it goes from like, oh, you've got 15 minutes to, oh crap, you need to be starting like in 2 minutes. So we're a little rushed today, but that's all right. And there, get some lights. Good, you remember me, Rex Peters. Yes. Although I, I think the name does look familiar. I know a few people do have multiple accounts and will be like, hey, you remember me? I was on my other account or whatever, but the name does sound familiar. So, oh, where you the Ferris ride? Yes. Okay. Is that Oh, okay. That was last week then, right? You talking the trying to think. It was supposed to be a roller coaster, but it does kind of look more um like a Ferris wheel car now that I think of it. Um so yeah. 'Cause I was thinking for a second, like I had done way back at the beginning of the project, um there's a spread actually of Miles at the carnival, but that was before I started live streaming. So for a second, I was like, Ferris wheel. Oh yes, okay. Actually, I don't think I. Some of the early stuff. What I was doing was I was filming it. I was making that into shorts, but then of course it's long before I started streaming. So why don't I just because I got my file folder here, can pull that out. Um, so this is the carnival spread from way back in 2023. What's been kind of interesting with trying to pick different themes each week and not really think about what I've drawn is some things are going to end up going together, like this carnival scene, and then um, the ride from last week, and then also is it kind of not so much this one that I'm going to start drawing right now. But we do kind of have a bit of a seafaring kind of scene because I've had a couple. Hi, Mr. David. I've had a couple different boat related drawings as well. Eh, So, all right. And as usual, like we're going to have definitely some heavy black lines later as we darken things up, but we're going to just start with the finer nib and kind of go from there. I didn't even get all the fish drawn that I planned to put into this little scene, so we're gonna get right on that. Um, but anyways, we're starting to go with the whole bunch of different um, kind of repeating motifs. Is that when it comes time to write the stories, some of them are going to lock together as in parts 1, 2, 3 type of thing. Like, one of the other things is back, um, again, I think in 2023, but quite a while ago, when I did the spread, I had Miles dressed as Elvis as one, and then we've had him dressed as Elvis twice more. Thoughts in my hand, I was so scared to go to Gemini. Trying a lady underwater or scuba diver. It's Miles, so it's not really, I mean, he's a dude, but his hair, which is usually slicked back, I figure it would start going, up like that. So, um, although, well, Miles probably has a bit of a case of man boobs, just because he's a little bit chubby, but yeah, that's my hand. So, before we get to Miles and his scuba gear, we're gonna outline a whole bunch of fish and a reef and whatnot. Um, of course, I myself am not a scuba diver, so we will have to take my depictions of underwater sea life as Gemini said, "Call, say it to my mom." Said it was just water. Okay, I'm not getting the reference there, Mr. David. Um, it's kind of references for what we might be seeing here would be whole bunch of, like, documentary films and going to the aquarium and whatnot, which is probably not super, super accurate, but, you know. Are you listening? I am, Mr. David, I am keeping an eye on the chat, um, but I'm not really sure what you're referring to. Um, so, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, sometimes people have, multiple tabs open, and it might be that he's listening to something else and chatting in the tab while watching this or something. I don't know. That certainly happens sometimes. I think one of the coolest, kinds of coral is that brain coral, but I'm not sure if it's gonna work as well in this kinda black and white, um, or if it just starts looking like squiggles, but, also adding in some shading might help afterwards. Uh, Just have to be mindful of that usually it's best to work top left down, so I don't wanna get too far down here and then have to go up there and risk smudging, so let's add a few more of these little fishies. I don't know why, but this one I'm drawing right now kind of feels almost like he looks anxious. It's funny how sometimes the tiniest little squiggle will give that impression, right? Though on the other page, will have a shark in the area, so he would have reason to be kind of nervous. Let's get some branching coral as well. We'll add a seventh fish. I always sort of say it's good to have things in odd numbered groups, so seven rather than six. other than I've got this group of 3, but whatever. They kind of will read as 2 distinct groups. Mm, would help if I moved got my lights so for nice and bright stuff, but it's fortunately, I hadn't started drawing on over on that side yet. Last thing we need is to have a whole bunch of the drawing obscured by the light. I'm not gonna try and make it, too dark, but definitely we'll have more black down here and kind of well, tapering's not the, right word, but, a gradation. It's, yeah, he's only there's like, oh, nice. It's always, nice to have artists in the family and have that kinda influence, um, growing up, even if one doesn't, pursue it directly. In my case, my dad, kinda did a bit of doodling, but was never neither of my parents were, super into art. One of my uncles was, though. Uh, he died when I was pretty little, but, Uncle Art was quite the oil painter. Did a lot of, like, landscape. Um, famous artist? Now, I are you talking Kate Bush, the singer, or painter? 'Cause off the top of my head, of course, the Kate Bush I've heard of is, the singer, but what was he? Oh, okay, paints and draws. Cool. I've always been curious, when you have, a name where you have someone like a rock star or a pop star or whatnot with the same name, if it becomes like, sort of like a marketing advantage that people would see that and, check out, or if it's, like a, "Oh, crap," type of thing. Uh, I mean, I know I've heard of, like, actors and whatnot who had the same name as, someone else who even if the somebody else, um, wasn't active anymore or had passed away or whatever, where they had to start going like, Screen Actors Guild was making them choose a different name or something like that. Of course, we don't really do it that way in visual arts, but let's have some more brain coral down here. Now that I think of it, if I'm having seaweed and these type of corals, usually I think that tends to mean where there's fairly clear water and it's still pretty bright, so I'll be a little more, light with the background shading, when we get to that. Actually been watching, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Mossy Earth, where they're one of those, like, eco companies where you have, like, a you can get a monthly membership and they do, um, restoration work and stuff like that, and then make YouTube videos about it, but they had a project where they made these, kinda looked like, big rebar cages type of thing that they were putting on an area that had been, stripped of the coral, and then partly they reseeded with little bits of coral, and partly they just kind of left it for Mother Nature to take over, but, a couple years later, they're actually getting, the start of a new coral reef, which is kinda interesting to watch. Need to go to bed, I'm in Florida now. Okay, have a good night. You too, yeah, I mean, hey, yeah, Florida, you guys are, uh, just about 10 o'clock. Just about 10 o'clock, right? It's certainly gonna be my bedtime here on the West Coast, so have a good night. See you soon. Now what I kind of have only half drawn in behind Miles is I was thinking of like, oh, shipwreck or whatnot, but I thought, well, with the on the Friday nights, I'm working on Ricky B, the Rock and Roll Rat, a graphic novel called Ricky B Goes to Sea, which ties into the Titanic because Ricky has this vision and he thinks he's got to go to the wreck of the Titanic and get the big shiny rock from the shipwreck movie to impress his girlfriend. So, kind of decided for this instead of having the big shipwreck, we're just gonna have where it's basically like a little not a rowboat, but it's got it is one of those little boats that's got a outboard motor. 39, yeah, good night. Uh, thank you, Walking UFO, and welcome to the stream. Nice big rock here. I think one that has like an anemone or something stuck on it, that would be kind of fun. I remember as a kid, us going having some field trip to the Vancouver Aquarium and kind of like a behind the scenes tour in their labs and whatnot. I mean, I think it's one of those things where they're like set up like a lab, but they're not actually doing any lab work. It's kind of like a teaching space for kiddos, you know. Um, but remember they had a whole bunch of like anemones and whatnot in this like shallow tank that was only probably 8 inches deep or so. And some of the kids couldn't wait to stick their hands in there. And for whatever reason, I was like, I'll put my fingers in there. It's like I knew they wouldn't bite me, but I was just like, I don't know. They probably feel squishy and weird and gross, which kind of has nothing to do with anything, but you know. Brain coral. Try and figure out where the bow of this shipwreck is. I feel like it's gonna be right about like there. And maybe we'll have a big starfish kind of hanging out on the bow of the little rowboat or whatever. Mini power boat. Will be in black and white or you color it. This one's gonna be in black and white. Um, so it's going to be there's a book it's part of a book project I'm working on where I'm doing a spread every well, now it's every week, but I had started it in 2023 and then kind of shelved it. Um, with just the art, but I think then I'm going to do write some short stories, so each will become an illustration of the short story, and I'll self-publish it, and then because of that, the price of color printing is kind of obscene. So, um, this one will stay black and white. I do have some other stuff that I do that's, in color, usually using markers and pencil crayons, but not for this character, Miles, yet. Someday in the future, I will probably. Color would definitely and it may be at some point that I take some of these black and white illustrations, scan them in, and then digitally color them or something like that for, I don't know, could be like a calendar project for 2028 or something along those lines, because definitely with this sort of stuff, like having the really brightly colored fish and whatnot, I think would really add to it. Um, but actually what I'd probably do in that case would be to just redraw the basic image, but planning for color right off the bat. But with this particular version, it's just gonna be black and white. Let's have a little bit more seagrass. Just gonna kind of mimic the way that Miles's tail is going. But actually, let's start kind of moving over that way. This character is part of my Ricky B. Rat world. So, where pretty much all the characters are either rats or rat people or mouse people. Miles is half and half. So he's got the tail and whatnot. There's little lines on the tail. I just realized I forgot to grab myself some paper towels, so I will be back in 1 minute. Benefits of having my desk set up right next to the kitchen. Okay. just had the idea of a fish trying to bite the tip of Miles's tail. So I have no idea what kind of fish, but one of the other words when I was brainstorming what I would do for this spread, was thinking sea monster, so maybe we'll do it as some sort of sea monster. Although, kind of want to draw more like a very weird eel. Um, Like and subscribe, relax and watch it. It's drawing. Oh well, thank you. And I totally get it. There's a few that I subscribe to as well, where I just like to sit and watch. I think the most recent one found was, I forget how to spell it, but it's like ASMRtica, Swedish guy, and he like draws dinosaurs and whispers facts about them. But his drawing style is, oh wow, like incredible pencil drawings, really cool stuff. Um, what's the other guy's name? I think Inspired Life or something like that. Guy from New York who does a lot of like really brightly colored architectural um, drawings. I think he live streams on like Saturday and Sunday evenings. So it's nice too to kind of check out various, different genres and whatnot. Like the guy from New York with his color style is like, oh, that's amazing. And he kind of starts almost with like an accidental sort of looking color scheme, like color blocks, and then he goes in with acrylic markers and stuff afterwards to draw in, and really cool. Very different style from what I do, but it's like I can make some modifications to this idea for sketchbook work and whatnot. Feels so weird to draw Miles's hair just going in the water because usually he has it in like an Elvis style pompadour, which probably, single-handedly killing the ozone with hairspray to keep it that way, but it's not going to hold up in the sea. It's kind of fun to draw characters and outside of their normal world. It's like Miles normally wears glasses, but he normally has sort of very narrow, kind of sneering kind of eyes, but he's caught by surprise here. Did I draw inspiration from a photo or image or rely solely on creativity? Um, Bit of both. Usually the idea will be in my head and then I'll do a rough, like super rough. I'm looking if I've got a sketchbook handy here. I think I do actually. I can show you. But my sketchbooks usually they're not as bad as like Stickmen, but they're pretty rough looking, and then I'll kind of work from there. If I can't get drawing to look right, like the pose, then I will definitely go for photo references. Um, And it depends on what I'm drawing here. I mean, well, uh, just put that up there for a moment so I don't smear anything. But like stuff like those kind of drawings, that's what Miles normally looks like. Super rough. I think this one, like this is for actually the calendar project I'm working on my Tuesday night streams, but you get the sense of what my rough plotting sketches look like, basically scribbles. And then I work from there with a more refined pose. Like here, I'm using the non-photo blue pencil. But I did look, this isn't any one specific reference drawing, but I did do like a Google image search for scuba diver and kind of tried to find a few where there was one in the right kind of angle so I could get, oh, okay, yeah, you're gonna see roughly this much of the tank on his back. You're gonna see, oh, there's this like tube thing and whatnot. So it really depends on the image. Stuff like the coral in the background here, I'm kind of like obviously some of those scuba diving references were on coral reefs, so I have my memory jogged that way, but I'm going a lot based on memory of watching, YouTube documentaries on the ocean or whatever. Um, so I know we have that kind of branching coral. We've got starfish, sea anemones, and that kind of coral that looks like brains. So, um, but yeah, it really depends on the thing. I think probably for this sort of stuff, there's a little bit less referencey type stuff in it. Whereas there's times where I've done sketchbooks where I'm like doing a lot of from photo references, and then that kind of gets lodged in the brain, right? Um, well, for example, Miles here and then Ricky, they both kind of developed from this weird sketchbook project I had in 2023 where I didn't have access to a life drawing session that worked for my schedule. Um, but what I had on was I was in a few U2 fan groups and there were, different fans posting pictures of Bono all the time. So I had tons of references to that. And I don't know how the idea came up in my head, but I think it was around the time when what's his face? Bob Iger went back into being in charge of Disney, maybe. But something to do with the Disney boss, CEO, or whatever, where one got fired and the other one came back. And I guess that somehow in my brain, I had the idea of doing like a mashup between Bono and Mickey Mouse. So I was drawing Bono from photos and turning him into a mouse dude who was obsessed with cheese. And then those mutated and evolved into Ricky and Miles. And at this point, I don't think either one of them you would go, oh, okay. Like you wouldn't really see that reference. I mean, Ricky looks more like Sid Vicious now, and Miles just looks like, eh, Miles doesn't look like Bono either. So, um, but at that time, I was trying to be fairly realistic and whatnot because I was basically practicing posing. But I've had other times where I've done a lot of sketching that was from observation, like I think 2021. I think I was doing a lot of stuff that was like drawing perfume bottles and makeup and like purses and high heels and stuff just from the stuff that I had in my closet, um, whatnot. So it kind of depends on the phase I'm in and whatnot. I've definitely done a lot of stuff from photos and other references and a lot of stuff completely out of my head too. So, um, so now we've got big old tank on his back. And I guess his wetsuit, I don't want to make it completely black because a lot of we wanna have some contrast here, but I have noticed that you do get some, wetsuits where they'll have, like, let's say maybe the arm is, like, black here, but then blue there or whatever, where you have those kind of striping, so we'll have some black in here for sure. Uh, oh, some of the photos I saw, they had these tubes, going to their mouthpiece as being, like, bright yellow, but I'd always heard you weren't supposed to, have, like, bright yellow if you're diving because it supposedly attracts sharks or whatever. I guess it depends where you're diving and whatnot. Some places, maybe you want that high visibility instead, but just kind of not make it too dark, but put in some of these little, like, ridges. Um, and we kinda have that repeating pattern, right? Because 'Cause he's got the lines in his tail more spread out and then little pipes on his, equipment are, together. I'll post this in my, um try and remember to post a picture of this, tomorrow on my Facebook and tag my, friend Tiffany, who's a really hardcore scuba diver, and sort of ask her opinion. Okay, what did I get wrong? Not that we're gonna change anything because this is, it's the cartoon universe, and maybe cartoon scuba divers do things differently than human ones, but you know, kind of more trying to get the idea that he's not simply free diving. Has been the most difficult thing for you to improve in terms of drawing? Um, I still struggle with feet, depending on the angle. Like sideways, it's not too bad, but I had one. Oh, it was last week on the Tuesday stream where my character Noah was wearing flip flops and but I had him where you kind of had like a front view of his feet. So trying to get that to look right. I still don't think I mean, actually, the way I'm doodling it right now, I think looks better than what I actually put in that drawing. But feet are a pain. Hands, it depends on the day. Certain hand positions, I've been where I'll make the thing and like take a photo of it or whatever, or look in the mirror with the gesture. And even though I'm drawing it the way it looks in the photo or in the mirror, it just always looks wrong for certain hand positions, um, when it's drawn, so that's kind of a pain too. Uh, these days, I don't really do a lot of perspective drawing, like buildings. Like, in high school, we had to practice that stuff in my art class. So I think I used to be better at it, but now it's kind of like I just kind of make buildings look a little bit cartoony. I don't worry about if the vanishing points don't line up. But that's something that I have been thinking that it would be nice to maybe this summer I'll get around to it, but to do a little bit more urban sketching, in order to kind of bone up on that skill. Um, but I do find that that's something where if I can kind of get into like the zone, like kind of a zen frame of mind, then I can, even without like using rulers for vanishing points or anything like that, I can get it to look a lot more real. But I guess that's more something that needs improvement. But some stuff it's kind of hard for me to like. I sometimes get people asking about drawing faces or whatever, and all I can kind of say is like I think you just have to do a ton of it. Because I mean, when I was in high school, what we all did was, you know, we got magazines and we drew our favorite actors and rock stars and whatnot, and Sometimes you trace the photo and then you try and draw it, next to the photo so you're not tracing and, um, try and guess, and it helps when you know the general proportions or whatnot, but at this point, because I've been drawing for, I don't know, most of my life, and I'm in my late 40s now. Um, and back in high school, I used to be able to draw, photorealistically pretty much with like pencil shading and stuff. Um, I'm a lot looser now, but you know, certain faces I do find difficult to do. It's obviously easier to draw like a character because people don't people don't know if you mess their face up a little bit, right? Unless, but if they do know it, if it's someone they know. Yeah, hands and feet. Yeah, proportions too. I do find like with my characters, it depends where I start drawing from. Um, but I have noticed looking at some of say the Noah's Archipelago comic that sometimes Noah is about 6 heads tall, and, he should be about 7. Um, and, even with these guys, like well, mind you, Miles's, proportions are probably roughly standard proportions, it's just that he's smaller than Ricky because, Miles is half mouse. Um, so, but I've definitely noticed a certain inconsistency with proportions with certain drawings. Um, I'm getting the first Noah's Archipelago comic collection together. Hopefully, I'll have that um, self-published by the summer. But definitely, kind of looking through the first 9 months, go like, oh yeah, there's some stuff where you can tell I was still figuring out how to draw these folks. Um, but of course, sometimes you wanna play with with proportions a certain amount just for different effect, but you have too much wide variation, it looks pretty messed up. Um, let's see here. Someone else's thumb is going there. Finger. Miles needs a little bit of business with the hands, I think, when he's diving, but, we'll kind of leave it that way. Uh I'll say this is also a little bit I normally draw Miles in like a suit jacket and slacks or in a golf shirt and slacks. So trying to imagine what he would look like in a wetsuit is been a little bit of a brain warper. Come back here and fill in this little area, and then we'll come back and work to the right. Once I've got the drawing done, I'm going to set this aside, work on the other side. By the time I finish the other side with this nib, then this one should be dry enough that I can add in some heavier, darker areas to, so we're not, don't just have the plain white for the background. Yeah, doing great. It's gonna, oh, no worries. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. It's been amazing to see how far I have people watching from. You're in Scandinavia. I've had a kid who was a high schooler in Pakistan watching just before he had to go to school in the morning. So, anyways, thanks for coming by and have a good night. So one of the things that's a little kind of disorienting, right, is that Miles is floating up. He's close to the bottom, but he's not on the bottom. But we're starting to draw the bottom, type of thing. I don't know if that makes any sense, but part of me always kind of wants to almost make it like he's standing on the bottom, but no, he's not. He's just kind of like doing this with the fins. It has become kind of apparent over a number of these drawings that Miles is into the ocean. We have him in another in the yeah. Anyways, in the M spread, he was yeah. Take care too. Um, in the M spread, we had him running around on his motorboat with a couple models in the background. Here we have him scuba diving. Last week we had him river rafting as well. So little dude likes the water. It's a gag I don't think I've shown on stream, but a little cartoon where it actually comes from a short story that won't be in this book, but will be in like probably the Ricky B. Rat short story book that I'll start working on later this year. Um, but where Ricky goes on a double date with Miles and this girl Daisy, and Daisy would probably eventually end up being Mrs. Miles, but we're not there yet in the story. Anyways, Miles is going with he's got a pickup truck, which Ricky didn't know he had one. And, anyways, Miles explains to Ricky that chicks dig dirt bags. The only question is, do they want a sports car dirt bag, a luxury car dirt bag, a truck dirt bag, or a yacht dirt bag? And then he calmly says, I have one of each, just to be certain. Somehow I think I forgot to connect his snorkel, huh? We're going to have to do a little something something here. There, now it looks like he's got his regulator connected. And anyways, that'll probably be the episode because the story with Daisy, what kind of the background is Miles is the cousin of Ricky's girlfriend, Baby Ratson. Miles, of course, calls her Barbara. 'cause that's her real name, but, she's the youngest of 5 girls, everybody called her Baby Rat, so Myles knows how to annoy her, so, um, anyways, at some point we find out, uh, that Myles got his heart broken by a girl named Gina, and Baby insists that Myles has been a dick ever since, so maybe that's true. So that was I wrote, for the writers group that I belong to, the Couch and Writers group. Not that I've been to meetings lately, because now I my live streams conflict with certain of the meetings, so I haven't been in a while, but, the last time the group did an anthology, I had a story in there, and it's called Christmas in Ratsville, and, it's narrated by Myles, so, we get little hints. He doesn't say what happened with Gina, but he, you know, refers to that he wasn't gonna think about Gina anymore, and then makes some references to, two-timing trollops and whatnot, and he's like, "Right, I said I wasn't gonna think about Gina anymore." So you just get this little sense that maybe the reason Miles is a dick is he got his little heart broken. So now he's having his fun, and, eventually he's gonna find a nice girl and all that sort of thing. But, he's going through a phase right now. We had in the so the reason why I'm doing things, with alphabet letters is the original impetus for this project was, um, Struthless, here on YouTube had a alphabet superset challenge, and that was you would whatever medium you wanted, you would pick sort of a grand theme and then think about how to break that into like weekly chunks or whatever. This was like in 2023 when this came out. And then the idea was you would break your big theme into like sub themes, each one having to do with, having starting with the letter of the alphabet or whatever. And at that point, I had just I'd been doing that Bono as Bono Mickey Mouse mashup sketchbook for a few months at that point. I had developed these little, what I called the marginal mouse men, where they weren't Bono, but they were kind of like fillers interacting with the drawings of Bono. Um, and I'd already started doing Ricky as his own character, so Ricky had already left that world, or left that sketchbook and become his own rat man who wants to be Sid Vicious instead of Bono. Anyways, so I figured I was going to take one of these little marginal mouse men and kind of develop him into his own little dude. Um, so that's why, this is the S spread and whatnot, was because my plan had been okay, each week I'm going to do one 2-page spread with this little dude. And, anyways, that's how I developed Miles and discovered his personality and whatnot. Um, So I started out in 2023, and then it ended up being on the back burner for a while. And, when I started streaming again, then I started working on them again. Um, but through that, that's how I kind of learned about his character and stuff like that. Like the reason why he likes dressing up as Elvis is because of the E thing. I just had this strong urge that, I feel like Miles is going to be like a huge Elvis fan, maybe even an Elvis impersonator. So now we've had, I think, at least three of these spreads where Miles is dressed as Elvis. The E one, and then for K, he was dressed up as the King, i.e., Elvis, having like a kickboxing fight with a knight on a castle keep sort of parapet wall or whatever. Um, and on cue, we had him dressed as Elvis and going on a quest kind of back to that castle. Actually, I mean, that one kind of seems to predate um, the kickboxing thing. So it may be that when I actually put the book together, that we're not going to have it like alphabetically in order, that they'll all be there, but you know, that things may not, they maybe not be so obvious that it's alphabetical. Um, anyways, so we had that. We have now, as I said, we've had a few instances of Miles showing an interest in water stuff, sailing, etc., which could end up being that instead of writing like 26 short stories, that, that I have a smaller number of stories and more of these drawings that connect to each story or something like that. I don't know yet. Um, it is kind of a different way of working for myself, because normally I have the story in my head and then I illustrate it. Whereas with this project, I'm illustrating first and I'm doing things randomly and then stories will evolve afterwards. Some of this I'll end up coming in with a fatter nib to make things heavier, thicker, etc. Maybe over here I should have a few like really little fish. It's just a little group of three that kind of barely show up. After all, the little fish would want to be kind of camouflaged in amongst the coral, wouldn't they? Because that's how they find safety. Oh, we're an hour in, and we're not even we're not even done one page. I mean, hey, you know, we'll be streaming till about 8:30, 8:45 my time, so another hour, hour and 15 minutes. If it ends up being that we only finished the one page in that time, well, I mean, then we'll just continue on with S after that. I think when I first started live streaming, it was actually with the J for jury duty, and I don't think it was until the M spread that I actually did both pages in one stream. Otherwise, I would just like do one page, and then however long it was, then then it was over. It's like I can barely see the fish that I put in there, but I know they're there. And if somebody really wanted to squint, now granted, this is going to be reduced to a smaller size, so um, you know, Miles looking a little pudgy there, but one of Ricky's comments about Miles and one of because I did some podcasts with the Ricky B rat, Ricky B the rock and roll rat. I did do some podcasts with like a cartoon voice for Ricky and whatnot, and it seems to me in one of the scripts, one of the shows, Ricky made the comment about Miles that Miles don't skip dessert, or Miles don't skip seconds, however the phrasing went. So it kind of works if he's a little bit of a pudgy dude. Visioning a little, kind of like we had a rise there, kind of another little hump coming up here. This is probably just barely visible. Uh, what I'm starting to draw now isn't actually in the underdrawing. We're kind of improvising this here. Got a little bit of seagrass. I don't know if seagrass actually grows where there's coral reefs or if they're two completely different environments, but it's the cartoon universe. They have different rules for their biodiversity there. Just kind of indicating for myself where this little boat has ended up. Let's draw a grouping of anemones in here. We should probably have an octopus here somewhere. Well, I'm gonna put an octopus right there, but I'm gonna fill in this area first so that I don't end up smearing him. I feel like that now is kind of more like an eel. So kind of crab looks a little bit more like a frog, but whatever. Might look like a piece of lettuce, or it could be like a sea cucumber or something, which, well, they kind of look like a piece of lettuce. So, I remember there was one of the scuba reference photos I saw. There was like this kind of coral that kind of just like looked like fingers sticking up. So probably not quite accurate in the way I just drew it, but draw some more fish over here. Kind of angel fish, maybe. Don't know if it picks up in my mic, probably not, but, if you're hearing, "Hi, Akaya accent Anderson." Yeah, mispronouncing. Akaya Anderson. Hello, how's it going? Just gonna say, I don't know if it picks up in my mic, but, I live across the street from or pretty close to a school, and, I think we got some teenagers hanging out, with a boombox, and I'm going like, wonder if that picks up in the mic, but if you hear like a boom, 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 that's what that is. The way things are shaping up, I think this might be the only page we get done tonight, but that's okay. That is totally okay. I think raising the horizon, well, horizon, I use that loosely, but the edge of the ground of the ocean floor up there from down here has kind of helped place Miles as floating more, whereas when it was down there, kind of looked more like he was ought to be standing. Um, Whereas this, I guess, has added more depth that way, like this way, as well as in the water column. So I think this nib might be starting to get a little clogged up, but that's okay. Definitely getting some ink that was starting to dry in that nib. So now, not actually done with that size of line, but I will switch to a different nib because I don't want that one to solidify with dried ink. So we'll leave that soaking for a little bit and finish off this last corner with the thin, and then I am going to grab fatter nib and work a little bit into the water column, but I want there to be kind of like a bit of a cave sort of thing going on in here. Alright, I think the thin lines are done pretty much. Obviously, I could add more um, fish up here. And maybe I will actually, just to fill in that one corner, make things extra, extra full and busy. Alright, so let's go for a fatter nib. Just that little bit up there. I'm gonna flip it upside down so I can add a little at the very, very top. But you kind of want to be pretty gentle here. You know, I want a little bit of tone, but not as heavy as that, of course, because as you get light closer to the surface, or you're seeing more light coming through, right? Hi, Ilya. And thank you. I will, and you take care as well. So we're going to just give some heavier outlines here. Don't need it everywhere, but it will help to kind of pop Miles out. Just like leaving that little bit of white space around his hair helps to pop him out as well, depending what's around him. stand up for a second because sometimes the reflection of the lights in the wet in the you know, the ink's kind of shiny initially. It's like I can't see what pops out from the background and what doesn't. But all right, so I think I'm gonna call it there for tonight. So we obviously only got through the one drawing, but that's okay because that just means we've got our prep ready for next week when we'll see what Miles is making eye contact with. I think I showed it at the very beginning when they were both just the blue underdrawing, but yeah, so that is it for tonight's stream featuring Miles from the book I'm working on, Miles Morrow's Pursuit of Happiness. Tomorrow night we are streaming. Well, we're streaming every night this week, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, and tomorrow night's going to be doing one, maybe two pages from the Noah's Archipelago 2027 calendar that I'm working on. So my other major comic project. Wednesday, we are inking the last couple pages from Zommel the Destroyer, that being the 2013 reboot comic that I found that I had drawn but not inked. And then after that, probably gonna do like a little final coda for that book. That Zombie the Destroyer was my original web comic, that started 20 years ago. And then Thursday, we're doing more Noah Thorson stuff with a couple pages from the coloring book I'm working on, featuring Noah and his assorted job history. And then Friday, we are going to be inking Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat with the graphic novel Ricky B. Goes to Sea. Um, so we're going to have a couple of nautical underwater sort of themes, although the pages I'm inking on Friday night, Ricky isn't at sea yet. He's still at his crappy job at the recording studio. Anyways, so that's going to be it for this week's Miles stream. I was going to see this week's show, except it's only the first of several. And now I'm starting to do like a Sunday afternoon um, stream that's just kind of doodling. So, anyways, hope you've enjoyed tonight's drawing, and we'll see you again real soon. And yeah, bye for now, and bye bye, Miles. Good night, everyone. Take care.